Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. If you didn't, well, you're probably not here. So I wanted to talk about a couple of the things that I was doing in that solo, a couple of the things that I was thinking about. So let's just get going. But before we do, please guess what the solo I was quoting was. I'll put a time here where you can find that solo, and guess in the comments which one that was. I'll be back a week from now and post the correct answer and pin it to the top of the comments. Yeah, so guess away, and let's get to the lesson. First off, the chord progression is this. Okay, so it's D minor, B flat, G minor and A, and you can throw in sevens and stuff if you want to, like a G minor 7 for instance, but those are the basic chords. And what that does, of course, is that it's in D minor, but it's not D minor all the way. Actually, it's D harmonic minor. It implies D minor at times, but so this would be harmonic minor. Whereas minor would just be. So the difference is the 7th note, which would be a C in regular minor, which goes to C sharp in the chord A. So when you're playing, especially when the A chord comes along, you most often want to play C sharp instead of C. You can play some other notes, of course, but if you're playing a C over the A, that might sound weird. You can get away with it occasionally, but the C sharp is something to aim for, because that will be kind of home base with the A, where the note A would be even more home base. So it's in D minor. That was mostly what I was doing, and then it was D harmonic minor. Now, one other thing that I did, I threw in a bit of chromatics, not too much, because the pads in the background, I had a Mellotron plugin and a pad. I might have had an organ, not a real organ, just some kind of MIDI organ. I mean this kind of organ, not the genital. But those really define the notes that you can use a lot more than if it had been a bit more. If it's more like that, you have a bass and maybe one guitar doing something like that, you can get away with more chromatic stuff. But there were some chromatic passages in there, or chromatic passing tones in there. And the thing about chromatic passing tones is you can use quite a lot of them as long as you don't linger on them too long. Hence the name passing tones. So you could do something like this. And that's just your D minor. And you go, if you think in terms of pentatonics, it would be D minor pentatonic. And you fill out the pentatonic box with chromatic passing tones. So what I like to do is... And all of the notes on the 11th frets of the A string, D string and G string are passing tones. Well, the one on the D string is actually in harmonic minor, so that's more of a kind of diatonic. But the one on the A string is a flat 5, which in D minor doesn't necessarily sound too great. And on the G string, you have the F sharp, which is, of course, that would imply major, over minor, which would be like... not too nice. But when they're passing tones, you can just get away with them. And then there was one note that I really liked to accentuate in this, and this is something that I kind of stole straight from Opeth, and it's the second note of the scale, the add 9, if you want to think in those terms. So the add 9 would be E, second note of the scale. And that's one you can really linger on. It's not in the D minor chord, but it fits really nicely. And the same actually works for woodwork if it were in D major. So that's a nice sounding note, and the guys in Opeth both lingered on that, or kind of emphasized that notes, and I did a bit of the same. Then there was one lick that I thought I'd show you, or kind of the idea behind the lick. I actually have a lesson, separate lesson on this, so if you want to check out this sweep arpeggio thing, there's a card here somewhere, but it was this one. And it's basically these notes. And then I add this. So it's a sweep arpeggio. And these notes I play as hammer-ons and pull-offs to, well, a few of them. And this is a great sweeping thing because you can move that about, and like I said, there's a lesson on that, so there was a card here somewhere. I'll put that into the description as well. So if you want to check out that, it's called the Lazy Man's Sweeping Pattern. That's why I dubbed it. And that's basically it. When you play a solo like this, it's all about feel, and this was take one. I wanted to keep it as take one, even if there were a couple of mistakes in there. Because the first take is usually the best when it comes to feel. I say usually, there are exceptions of course, but it tends to be that the longer you keep trying to get a solo right, the less there is of a feel to it. That's why I've noticed that often demo versions, even though the production value might be poor, the playing is often better. It's not technically as good as the finished product, but there's something magical often to demo versions that it's difficult to recapture when you're doing it in the studio. So that's why I wanted to keep it as one take and the first take, and luckily I managed to do that, even though there were a couple of places there when I listened back to it, that's not in tune, that's not good, but hey, that's life. None of us is perfect. Not even Yngwie Malmsteen. So if you want to check out more melodic stuff, there's a playlist around here. If you want to check out more lessons, there's another playlist. Other than that, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. Support me on Patreon, helps me make more of these videos. Comment, and yeah, I hope to see you in another one. Bye!